So imposter syndrome is not a great thing. And it's believing the lie that you have to have some kind of ceiling of where you can go because you, as you are not enough. So I'm going to get fired up on here, but if women promoted themselves based on potential the way men do, oh my gosh, like all of the things, I get what she's saying. And a lot of us believe that. And I get that if your only goal is perpetual, like grind, hustle to get to that place, believing that if you do, you'll finally feel enough can be a driving force in that, but it never arrives at enough. It never arrives at enough. And you can achieve as much and still have strong self-worth. You can achieve as much without feeling like you're an imposter, for sure.
Jamie, taking us to church today. I tell you what, I am fired up. That was incredible. Welcome back, Flourish or Fold listeners. I am so excited to share our guest with you this week, Jamie Kern Lima. Woo! You might know her as the founder or co-founder of IT Cosmetics. And if you do, you are so fortunate to hear her story and understand the message that she is bringing to the world. Well, she's got a book out this week entitled Worthy, and I know we're all going to go to our nearest Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and grab that book. It is incredible. It has fundamentally uplifted, inspired, and changed my life. Jamie Kern Lima tells us about what it was like, the peek behind the scenes, to found her cosmetics company in her living room and to literally spend every cent of her money on these products and to receive hundreds of no's. As entrepreneurs, I think so often we see people snapping photos in front of expensive cars and yachts and houses and expensive vacations. But what we often don't see is the struggle leading up to profitability. Jamie talks about how worthiness gets to be the foundation of our personal and professional household, and how no matter what happens, we can always believe that we are deserving and enough. Listen in now. Welcome back to Flourish or Fold, Stories of Resilience. I am so delighted to have an incredible guest with us today. Her name is Jamie Kern Lima, and she is the co-founder of IT Cosmetics. She is already a New York Times best-selling author, a self-made billionaire, and she's coming to us this week because she's got a new book out that launched this week. It's called Worthy. Welcome to the show, Jamie. I'm so happy you're here.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I am really honored and excited to be here. Thank you.
Honored and delighted to have you. This is so exciting. What an amazing week. Your book is in the process of launching. I know you've done so much work to get here, and I'm just delighted that you made time to join us on the show. Now, as you know, Flourish or Fold, Stories of Resilience is about taking a peek behind the curtain, having an opportunity for you to share with us as a well-known person, maybe some of the lesser well-known challenges that you have faced. And so as you think about some of those instrumental challenges in your life, challenges that have really instructed you, informed you, formed you into the woman that you are today, what would you tell us about this journey that you've been on and a challenge that you've faced that's been incredibly formative for you?
Such a powerful question. And I love it so much because I think when people, if they're aware of my story or they Google me, they always kind of see the story the press typically shares, which is Denny's waitress builds billion-dollar company. And it kind of seems like, oh, did she get lucky or did it come easy or is it a fairy tale? And while that part of my story is true, my real story is like a girl who did not believe in herself most of my entire life. And kind of the greatest journey that I've been on is learning how to. And I think, self-doubt can kill more dreams than anything else. I remember the days waitressing tables at Denny's and just having these kind of hopes and dreams. And, you get that little kind of knowing that says, oh, what if you did this? And what if you, and I remember so many moments in my life, like doubting myself out of my own destiny. And so a big part of why I wrote Worthy is because I have learned through so many situations in my life is that our self-worth can be our ceiling, like whether it's in our business or in our interpersonal relationships. And there's been so many times where I literally doubted myself out of my own destiny. And for a long time, I didn't really understand why or the complexities of it. And I realized for a long portion of my life, I had worked really, really hard to build a lot of self-confidence, which is important. But underneath it all, I did not have self-worth, which is quite different. And I didn't know that self-confidence and self-worth was different. And so there's a lot of moments where I've tried and got rejected or failed and didn't yet know how to get through it, didn't yet know how to not think it meant I was a failure, and let it take root at a self-worth level. There's been so many stories like that. But yeah, I think the thing that I'm most, I guess, excited about to share this conversation with you, with everyone who's part of this with us right now is, this idea that when we reveal the real and share like the stories behind the stories, it can be they're rarely ever told. And it can be so powerful because I just think so often we're also similar and we have the same feelings and the same doubts and the same setbacks and the same failures. And a lot of times when we hop on social media in 2024, we don't see those. We see everyone's highlight reel. We don't know, okay, but am I alone in my journey? I once went to a really beautiful week-long retreat, and it was actually really intense therapy for a week. And, I grew up not going to anything like that or being exposed to anything like that. And I'll never forget. And I just want to share it because when I think of your show and this experience that we're having together, I think of this, but I remember that they had said, between 60 and 80% of what you actually learn in your healing journey can be from these shared group experiences that someone else may share during this week we were there. And they had said, because I had never been part of a group type of thing in therapy before. And they said, when someone else shares, you might think, oh, well, my story is really, really different. Or what do I have in common with that? But in fact, so much of your own growth and healing can be from their story. And so I think about that with your show and just like what a powerful force for good it is in the sense of how much we can learn from each other's experiences that then we can apply to our own life. So just want to off the bat say, I'm honored to be part of this. And I'm here to share today anything that can help be of service and add value to anyone listening. Because so often, again, we see things on the outside and it's never actually what really happened on the inside. It just looks different than it is. So, but to choose like, oh gosh, one thing, well, I think just one thing is that a lot of people may have heard of It Cosmetics, the company that I started in my living room. And maybe they see it today and they see it on the store shelves in Ulta Beauty or Sephora or all the department stores or QVC. And what a lot of people don't know is for so many years, it was a journey of hundreds of rejections and being told no after no after no after no. And, when I launched the company, literally in my living room, my husband and I had poured all of our money we had into the product and into third-party chemists. And I just thought, oh, for anyone listening to us who's launched their own business, maybe they'll relate to this, but I thought, oh, if the product's good enough, it's just going to sell. It'll just be a success. And what I didn't know is
us has not thought this. It will just sell itself. All we have to do is create it and they will come.
Right, exactly. And so many of us, same thing with like, oh, I'll just put my work out on social media, or I'll just offer my book to whatever it is. And for me, I just thought, oh, the product's so good. And so we had poured every penny we had into it. And from the day we launched the business, what I was not ready for, what a lot of people don't know, was that it was over 3 years of hundreds and hundreds of no's. I could not afford to pay myself even a penny for over 3 years. And a lot of, like the department stores I used to put on a pedestal, like I would save my Denny's tip money to buy, a lipstick in their store. And I thought, oh my gosh, these I was so passionate about our products. I thought for sure they were going to bring me into their stores. And Sephora, Ulta Beauty, QVC, department stores, all of them, it was no after no after no after no after no. And I had this kind of deep why or intention and reason for why I was doing the business. I have hereditary rosacea, which gets for me really bright red and bumpy. And you can see even on my cheeks, like I have a lot of bumps today of all days. but it's so if I take my makeup off, it's very bright red and bumpy. And I was, anchoring the news as my profession before I launched the company, and went through this huge season of self-doubt where I'd be live on the air and hear the producer in my earpiece say, there's something on your face. There's something on your face. You need to wipe it off. You need to wipe it off. And I'd be live in front of millions of homes. And what I realized is the makeup was breaking up and the redness was coming through. And I entered this season of self-doubt and of setback in my life where I was dealing with this rosacea. I thought, oh my gosh, am I going to get fired? Am I costing the channel ratings? Are people, switching the channel right now? And I started this kind of the first part of this was trying to find makeup that would work, from professional makeup artists to any type of lines or companies. And I couldn't find anything that would work. And then I started having this knowing. I remember I'd be anchoring the news live and I had this kind of like whisper, this knowing, that said, well, if you can't find anything that works for you, maybe you should try to figure out how to create something that works for you. And it's probably going to help a whole lot of other people. But maybe a lot of people listening to us can relate. I had that idea or that knowing, but like right away, my mind talked me out of it and said things like, oh, but you're not qualified. You've got no money. You have no connections in the beauty industry. And I sat in that place between having this knowing and then telling myself no. And I think so often, a lot of us can relate to this where we maybe, have an idea, we want to express parts of who we are, or we have goals or dreams, or we even want to take our business to the next level. This can be no matter what spot you are in your life. And I sat between that place between having a knowing and then having a whole lot of no in my head, talking me out of it. But I got this deep, deep reason for why. And it was one day when I realized like, this makes no sense. There's thousands of companies out there. Why has nobody launched a product that works for me? This doesn't make any sense. And then I realized I had never seen a makeup company with, having a woman that has bright red rosacea saying, buy this product, it's great. And I kind of realized that my whole life I had seen these commercials that, for beauty products, and I love them. But deep down inside, they always made me feel like I wasn't enough. And so I got this idea, okay, well, what if I can create a product that not only works and maybe helps a lot of people, but what if I put real women as models, like every age and shape and size and skin tone and skin challenge? And what if I try to redefine that definition of what beauty is? Like, and this was like a God-sized dream, by the way, but I was like, what if I could redefine that definition of what beauty is in the whole beauty industry for every little girl out there who's about to start doubting herself, and every grown woman who still does. And I got this like deep why for me. And that's when I made the decision to take the leap and start the business. But then it was in my living room for over 3 years where store after store after store after store said no after no after no after no. And in fact, they would say women will not buy makeup from images like this, because I was showing my real rosacea. I was showing, all different types of people. They would always use these words. They'll only buy from images that show unattainable aspiration, meaning you can never even look like that because it's not real. And I went through this season of that a lot of people don't know, which is that I didn't know if we were going to make it. I mean, we were teetering on bankruptcy for years. And what's really hard is when you have a knowing or a belief of what you're supposed to put out in the world, of the business you're launching or the ideas you're expressing or whatever. And all these experts kept saying no. And it's like, for a lot of us, if we get one no or five no's or 20 no's, we quit. And it was a 3-year journey of hundreds and hundreds of no's, and trying to not let someone else's doubt about me turn into doubt in my own head. And it's a wild journey of learning how to change my relationship with rejection, to not take it personal, to not have it think I'm a reject, to not be some indication that my idea is not going to make it, and to try to really like reframe rejection every time it happens, which I go deep into how to do this in Worthy in the book. There's a whole chapter on this, which is so powerful. But then just to keep going and going. And what's so wild is like, as you and I are talking now, It Cosmetics, eventually I got yeses from every single one of those places that said no. But it took years, and it took staying the course. And what's wild is, we eventually built to over 1,000 employees. We eventually got into all of those stores, but it was that long season of how to believe that it's possible, how to not let all the doubt and the naysayers and the no's and the setbacks talk me out of my truth, how to not doubt myself out of my own destiny. And most importantly, how to believe I was worthy of actually, launching a business that was successful, and especially after hearing so many no's. And so I think the journey of enduring so much rejection and setback, and having people tell me not only no, but like, no, a lot of the no's weren't like, oh, come back later. It was like, no, like you're not. I remember one time QVC, after QVC, which is a live television shopping channel, where they broadcast to 100 million homes, they had said no for years. And eventually I got the head guy of all of QVC beauty. He's a legend in the beauty industry. And he built this multi-billion-dollar beauty division on QVC. And I remember when I finally had a call with him, and I thought like, oh my gosh, if he is giving me his precious time, it's definitely going to be a yes. And on the call, I'll never forget, he said, we've received your samples, all of them, because I'd been sending for years. And he said, I wanted to call you directly and let you know I've met with all of our buyers, and it's unanimous. You're not the right fit for QVC or for our customers. And that day was one of the most painful rejections I've ever had. I remember crawling under my covers and crying myself to sleep. But without giving away a whole lot of stuff, I'll just say that eventually, when we got a yes from QVC and launched on the air and sold out the first airing after years of hearing no, he became one of my dearest friends and mentors. After we launched on QVC, eventually we built the biggest beauty brand in QVC's history, which is wild. I ended up doing 250 live shows a year for 8 years, and it still is the biggest beauty brand. But I only share that because for 3 years they said no, and you're not the right fit for us or our customers. And I don't know who listening to us needs to hear this today, but nobody can tell you you're not the right fit, or that your dream isn't going to happen. And someone else's no, it can be valuable feedback sometimes, but what I have learned, it is never an indication of the potential of your dreams. And this is the last part I'll share, is after we launched, his name's Alan Burke, he retired from QVC, and he had been there for decades. And then we hired him in a paid position on our advisory board. So the guy that rejected me was now working for me. And it's like, whoa, it's like, I've always believed like God can give you double for your trouble. And I believe in, that rejection's God's protection and in divine timing and all of that. And I just look at how things played out, but also just had I listened to self-doubt and after so much rejection, let it take root into thinking I'm a reject or failure, I think I could have never believed I was worthy to have my dream come to pass in that area with It Cosmetics. And so I think, I wrote Worthy because there's 20 tools in it on how to build unshakable self-worth. And I just think that so often in life, there's so many areas that are important, but we don't often become what we want. We become what we believe we're worthy of. And our self-worth really, truly can be our ceiling in so many areas. So it's a wild story. And yeah. And the one time we got one shot on QVC, by the way, I was advised to do certain things, and I totally just went with my gut against it, and it changed everything. And so the power of authenticity is also super, super important, but that's another story I can share another time. But anyways,
Oh,
I would say that's probably one of many, one of many, 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 many stories where resilience was everything, and just deciding to keep going, and learning how to.
ooh, big, deep exhale after that gorgeous series of stories. I mean, Jamie, oh my gosh.
Mm.
For all of you listening in to Flourish or Fold Stories of Resilience, I want to share with you an online course that we have on our website. We're going to go ahead and drop the website in our show notes, or you can go to www.resilience-leadership.com and check out our offerings. We've got an incredible course for you called Flourish, the 5 Practices of Highly Resilient People. So if you love what you're learning about in this podcast, if you love these conversations on resilience, if you love hearing about how you can more effectively face the inevitable moments of challenge, change, and complexity, or the 3 C's as I call them, in your life, then go ahead and check out our online course, Flourish, the 5 Practices of Highly Resilient People, because what you are going to find is a one-on-one tutorial with me around each of those 5 practices, as well as an introduction and a conclusion. We've got hours of content that is going to allow you to engage in direct coaching and learning with me on the 5 practices. Go ahead and check it out, and I hope you'll join us in our online course, Flourish, the 5 Practices of Highly Resilient People. My heart is just, I'm rewinding in time, and my heart is going out to that version of you, at that time, that had just poured every penny of what you had. It's easy for us to talk about now because the looking back and in the hindsight, we know the next chapters in the story.
Yeah.
We know what happens next, right? Here we are today. And yet just that moment of not knowing what the next chapters would be, and feeling so deeply called to be doing this work, and yet so deeply continuing to hit like barricades and dead ends. And I think so often for so many of us, there is this tremendous chasm that exists in this moment of our life where we're in a moment in the present where we see something more for ourselves, right? We feel worthy enough to ask for what we want, to go after what we believe in, and yet out in front of us, there is this chasm between where we are today and where we want to get to tomorrow. And it's that process of figuring out, how am I going to cross this expanse that exists between where I am today and how I want to get to that place tomorrow. And that is the work. And I just love your story. It's so beautiful.
And how do I want to feel when I get to that place, right? Because I think some people will maybe get to it in an authentic way, and then they wonder why they arrive at it and don't feel fully fulfilled, or it's interesting. There's a whole chapter in Worthy about the difference between self-confidence and self-worth. And I learned this lesson the hard way. I most of my entire life thought self-confidence and self-worth were the same. And what I know
By the way, I
now,
don't want to interrupt you or take you
yeah,
off track, but
yeah,
same. Like, I thought they were the same thing too. And you taught me, I've got your book right here. I love it so much. You
yay.
can already see made little notes for myself. And you taught me, you're teaching us the difference between self-confidence and self-worth. So tell us about what that is.
And it's for me, it's been so life-changing. Because we can build all the self-confidence in the world, and that's really, really important. But if we don't have self-worth underneath it, it's why for so many of us, no matter what we achieve, we still feel like we're not enough. Or no matter what goal we finally get, we still feel like we're not enough. And I'll explain the two really briefly. And then just for everyone listening, just to try and add value, hopefully everyone goes and grabs the book Worthy. But even if you don't, I hope and pray that in this one episode, these are tools like you can apply to your life right now, that are really, really great, because this for me was probably one of the biggest life-changing epiphanies that I had after most of my life thinking if I could just achieve enough and just accomplish enough, then I'd finally feel like I was enough. And every time I'd arrive, maybe people listening can relate to this, I'd arrive at that next big goal. And I thought, oh, once I finally get that, right? For anyone listening, if you've ever thought, once I finally get this thing, then I'll be happy. Then it'll solve all my, and for some people, we think, oh, when I finally launch the business, or when I finally get married or have kids or hit a certain fitness goal, or get six-pack abs, or get a certain number in the bank account, or a dream car, whatever it is, we think, or a job title, we think when I finally get that, then I'll be happy, then I'll feel enough. And for a lot of us, we work so hard, like sometimes decades or years or months or weeks, we finally get that thing. And for anyone who's had that happen, usually for a lot of us, when you arrive at getting that goal, you're happy for a while. And before you know it, you're back down to feeling like, I feel like something's missing. I feel like this isn't enough, or I'm not enough, and then we solve it often by going, I've just got to work harder. I've just got to achieve the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. And here's the thing, all those things we're achieving are great because they all build self-confidence. And often we're growing when we're doing them and contributing to others, which is really, really important. But all of the things on the outside do not build self-worth. And so when we have really, really, really strong confidence, but don't have self-worth underneath it, they're very different. So self-confidence, while it's an internal trait, is based so much on the external. It's based on how we assess our own skills and abilities. Our willingness to try and go for it, how much of the world's definition of success we think we have, or if we feel like we're winning or losing at any moment, or how we feel like we measure and stack up and compare to others. It's fragile and it fluctuates. And, they studies show the boxers automatically 30% more confident when they win the match. And our self-confidence is important, but it's fragile. It fluctuates. Most of the advertisements we see our whole life tell us if we can only get those things, right? And those things will bring confidence, but none of them bring self-worth. Self-worth is the deep internal knowing that you are innately worthy of love and belonging exactly as you are, not as you achieve, not as your past mistakes or failures or regrets, and not as your successes, but exactly as you are. And the way I describe it in the book is that self-confidence is much like this house we're building with all the rooms and the art and the things but that house, our self-confidence is the house, but our self-worth is the foundation that house is built upon. And the house will only ever be as secure as that foundation it's built upon. And so our self-worth is so important, and they're very, very different. And for anyone listening who's wondering like, oh gosh, well, how do I know if self-worth is a thing for me? It often will show up in our lives in three ways, more than three, but here's the three main ways. If we have low self-worth, a lot of times what it looks like is we're stuck. We're stuck. Like we want to find a great relationship, but we're not getting on the dating app and we don't know why. Or we have a business idea, or our art we want to put out in the world, or our writing that we want to express, whatever it is, but we're stuck. And we think, oh, I just need to get more skills. I need to get more experience. I need all the things. And often we don't realize it's because if deep down inside, we don't believe we're worthy of the thing, we will stay stuck. Because we do not soar to the level of our goals and dreams in life. We stay stuck at the level of our self-worth. Our self-worth is our ceiling. And so if we have a low to medium self-worth, that can look like we go for the thing, we go after it, we start writing the book, we launch the business, but then we hit a ceiling, or we sabotage it along the way. We meet a great potential partner, and then we decide we're going to put them in the friend zone and we're somehow not attracted to them and don't know why. Or we write the manuscript and then we pause on it and we scroll Instagram 8 hours a day and don't submit it to publishers and don't know why. Or for me, I have been at the height of self-confidence and things going so great in my career, and I have still sabotaged things like even potential friendships because I didn't realize I didn't feel worthy. I felt very self-confident, but I didn't believe I was enough as I was. And so medium self-worth can look like we go for things and sabotage them, or we go for them and we hit a ceiling. We're trying to take our business to 6 figures and we don't know why we can't get past 5 figures or whatever it might be. And then medium to high self-worth can look like we go for the thing, we make it happen, we achieve it, we accomplish it, and we don't know why we still feel empty or like something's missing or like we're not enough. So building strong self-worth, it not only like literally allows you to believe you're worthy of the things you want to go after, but when you achieve them, you're able to feel fulfilled because you know your worth is not defined by any of them. And also, a lot of people think, well, if I feel I'm enough as I am, will I lose my ambition? Will I lose my edge? It's like, no, it's actually the opposite. Like you actually get more ambitious because you know, oh, I might go, you become fearless for going for things because you're like, if I go for them and fall flat on my face, it might rattle my self-confidence for a minute, but it cannot touch my self-worth because our
Jamie,
self-worth is our foundation. Yeah.
I have self-worth as our foundation. And I have
Yeah.
this exact question for you. And I love that you're heading in this direction. So I want to jump in and ask you.
Yeah.
So just today, I opened up my computer and there was like, a quote from Barbara Corcoran, right? So Barbara Corcoran,
Yeah.
we all know she's one of the sharks on Shark Tank. She founded
Yep.
her own like incredible real estate business. And there she was saying, all great entrepreneurs have imposter syndrome.
Mm.
It's the key to success because it makes you work harder. And I
Mm.
thought, oh my gosh, I have to talk to Jamie about this because there's so many people that I know, so many people that you know, who I think falsely believe that our unworthiness, our undeservingness, our not good enoughness is our secret sauce. It's our fuel that drives us. And people are afraid they're going to get soft if they allow themselves to be worthy enough, if they accept themselves. So, Jamie,
Right.
how do we get people to loosen their grip on this
Mhm.
belief that unworthiness is actually the fuel or the best fuel for our success?
Yeah. So that quote by Barbara, thank you for sharing that. That is both a truth and a lie. And I'll explain both. When we measure our success in our life by external things, the perpetual feeling of unworthiness and believing the lie that if we achieve enough, we'll be enough, that keeps us on a never ending cycle to nowhere. But what that looks like on the outside is a really great resume and a lot of people applauding and cheering our name. And what it looks like on the inside is, oh, wow, everyone's cheering for me and I don't feel like I'm enough and I feel empty. And so many people, because I've done this most of my life, we believe, right? Because here's the truth, not feeling enough can be a motivator. I'm just going to keep hustling until, because the next thing, then I'll finally feel enough. Then we get that next thing and we still don't. So if you want someone to hustle their whole life and get this external success that never brings fulfillment, yes, feeling like an imposter can get you that, but you'll never feel fulfilled. You'll never feel fulfilled ever. On the flip side, because right now, as you and I are talking, 80% of women don't believe they're enough. 75% of female executives deal with imposter syndrome. It's a real thing. It's a real thing. What I will say, I believe when you build self-worth and you also realize there's a whole chapter in Worthy on the ultimate fulfillment equation, because a lot of us, we just want to be happy. We want to be fulfilled. We want to live the truest, highest expression of ourselves. You do not get that by feeling like an imposter and just achieving over and over and over and over this external stuff. You will arrive still feeling empty, still feeling like you're not enough. and you will not be able to live the highest, truest expression of why you're on this earth. Just point blank. I believe you can still achieve all that stuff and get there fulfilled. And when we look at how do you do that, right? There's three big components that are important, and they're all multiplied by your level of self-worth to get your level of fulfillment. So one of those is confidence. And what Barbara's talking about is doing all these things that they do build confidence. When you get external success and you get rewards and you have another business and hit another milestone in your bank account and you have another child, whatever it is that all the world celebrates you for on the outside, those things build self-confidence. We also always need to be growing. If we're not growing, we don't feel fulfilled. And growing can look like growing in your faith. It can look like growing in learning to rest. It can look like growing and crushing it in your business. It could look like all different things, but we always need to be growing. And then we always need to be contributing to something bigger than ourselves, which could be through time. It could be through money. It could be through being the one person that sees that other person checking you out in the Starbucks line, ringing you up at the register, knowing that you just seeing her and saying hello, you might be the only person that entire week that sees her, right? There are so many ways we can contribute beyond ourselves, but we have to be growing. We have to be building confidence. We have to be contributing. Super important to being fulfilled, but all of those are multiplied by your level of self-worth to get your level of fulfillment in life. Because if you live perpetually feeling like who you are is not enough, you will never, ever feel fulfilled. And so what Barbara said, in my humble opinion, is both the truth and a lie. It is the truth in the sense that if your only measure of success is external, but empty internal, then that works. And for anybody listening to us who has been on this hamster wheel of every time I accomplish another thing and another thing and another thing and another thing, I don't know why I don't feel fulfilled. That's why. You also have to raise your level of self-worth and believe you are enough as you are. So I do not believe imposter syndrome is a positive thing. I think imposter syndrome is a big reason why, just to speak to women, why so many women don't apply for jobs unless you look at the data, right? Right now in our country, men will apply for jobs based on their future potential, and women will only apply for jobs or promotions based on what they've already accomplished, right? And then you look at like, how are people promoted in the workplace? And you look at how men are often promoted on potential, right? Or they'll apply for jobs when they meet 60 to 70% of the criteria. Women will wait till they feel they meet 100% of the criteria. So imposter syndrome is not a great thing. And it's believing the lie that you have to have some kind of ceiling of where you can go because you, as you are not enough. So I'm going to get fired up on here, but if women promoted themselves based on potential the way men do, oh my gosh, like all of the things, I get what she's saying. And a lot of us believe that. And I get that if your only goal is perpetual, like grind, hustle to get to that place, believing that if you do, you'll finally feel enough can be a driving force in that. But it never arrives at enough. It never arrives at enough. And you can achieve as much and still have strong self-worth. You can achieve as much without feeling like you're an imposter, for sure.
Jamie, taking us to church today. I tell you what, I am fired up. That was incredible. Incredible.
You know what else? Really fast. I know we're going to wrap. I have been in a spot, and I share this in Worthy, where I was believing that lie. I had even gotten to the point where I sold the business for over $1 billion cash and was on the Forbes list. And even then, because I didn't believe I was enough and I didn't have strong self-worth, I was still sabotaging stuff, right? Like there's a story in there about how I wanted to meet Oprah my whole life, and I finally did. And even though I was very confident, deep down, I didn't think I was worthy of being her friend. So I didn't call her for 4 years after she gave me her number. Like we will sabotage things when we don't think we're worthy of them. And so I think having imposter syndrome does not lead to the highest, fullest, truest expression of who you are, who God made you to be on this earth. And for us to live in alignment with our assignment, for us to be in that flow of who we authentically are, learning to believe you are enough and worthy as you are, that's when you step into your power. That's when you step into your power. There's a whole chapter called You're Not Crazy, You're Just First. And it's about how you're the first ever you and the only you that will ever be here. And when you are living as who you truly are, it is impossible to be an imposter. But when you're showing up every day, like trying to be someone you're not, you're telling yourself you're unworthy as you are. It chips away at your self-worth. And you can never, ever feel in true alignment with your assignment. So I will respectfully disagree with that quote, even though I have so much respect for Barbara. But that particular topic, I have learned and lived that particular topic. And let me just tell you right now, the time for change has come. When I imagine a world where women and men learn to believe they're worthy, that is when you become unstoppable. Like that is when I imagine like the jolt of possibility when they wake up in the morning. Like I just, no girl, no woman, no person left behind. The time for change has come to unlearn those lies.
Let's go. Let's do it. Yeah. Well, and I think we're taught to believe these things that aren't true. And I think so many successful people, luminary people, people that have come before us have been tapping into the store of unworthiness, undeservingness, and believing that that is their secret sauce, that is the fuel. Yeah. And one of the many things that I think is so powerful about your message is you are fundamentally shifting that paradigm. And you are saying you do not have to feel bad about yourself to be successful. In fact, that fuel is a false positive. And when we tap into that sense of worthiness, I love your metaphor about this is the foundation that our houses get to be built on. So everyone is going to go out. They are going to run, not walk look how sparkly and beautiful this is, right? It's just a whole rainbow of it. I am learning so much. I absolutely love your book, Jamie. It's an incredible honor and a delight. We're all going to run to our nearest Barnes and Noble, our nearest Amazon shopping cart and click buy. It's a beautiful book. Just an incredible thesis on how to live a beautiful life where we finally feel like we're enough. And one last thing, I've got a little surprise for you. I had this bracelet made that says worthy on it.
Oh, I love it. I love it.
In honor of your book launch, and I'll send you one so you can have one too.
I would thank you so much. Yeah. And thank you. It's, worthy is the one thing. And I'm so passionate. And honestly, it's the greatest work of my life. And so, I'm donating 100% of the proceeds of the book. Like this is literally just, I have learned when we build our self-worth, it changes everything, like every aspect of our life. And it's funny, just I know I'm getting fired up over that quote. And listen, I am more ambitious now than I have ever been. And the difference is I actually feel fulfilled while I'm doing it. And I know if I try something and God forbid fall flat on my face, I am enough, like I am fully fired up to do the next thing. It's not going to rattle who I am. And I just think about even just one person listening to us live where this is going to be a breakthrough for them, that maybe they're going to get off that belief, that hamster wheel belief of like, oh, I just have to perpetually achieve forever in order to feel enough. It's like, oh no, when you learn to believe you're worthy as you are, first of all, you end up achieving way more, but you actually can enjoy and feel fulfilled while you're doing it, and not believe you're an imposter. Because while imposter syndrome might be fuel for some people, for a lot of people, it isn't. It becomes just another ceiling where they don't go for the thing or they think they're unworthy of the thing. So yeah, I love that you brought that up because I'm like, can you tell I'm jumping out of my chair, so fired up because I'm thinking of every person listening to you and me right now. And I'm like, oh, it's such a good question. It's such a good question because hopefully just in our show together, I hope and pray people are unlearning those lies that lead to self-doubt. And that's what worthy is all about, is unlearning those lies that lead to self-doubt and then waking up and igniting those truths that wake up worthiness. So thank you for the blessing and honor of just being able to share it. And and talk about worthy. And yeah, it's out in the world now, which I'm so excited about. I'm so excited about.
Ah, amazing. Well, you have just been an incredible guest. I feel like I made a new friend. I am so delighted that we have connected. And Jamie Kern Lima, thank you for being a guest on Flourish or Fold Stories of Resilience. We cannot wait to read your book, and I wish you a beautiful book launch, and thank you for everything that you're doing to raise the tide of worthiness in the world and to allow us to believe once and for all in each of our inherent value. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
All right, Flourish or Fold listeners, I don't know if you had the same experience that I did, but I could not write down those phrases that Jamie was sharing fast enough. She talked about redefining beauty. She talked about the knowing in the know, the reveal of the real. That self-worth, the self-worth that we have within ourselves is the ceiling of what we are capable in our lives. I mean, oof. It was incredible. I would love to hear your experiences with this episode. What came up for you? What were you thinking about? What was your favorite part? And who are you going to share this episode with? Who in your life do you want to give a nudge to and say, hey, you're doing great things. I believe in you. You're amazing. Wouldn't it be wonderful if you too could feel a little bit more worthy? I hope that you will share this episode with your friends, your family, your community members, your neighbors in your apartment, the people that you see while you're walking your dog. Invite them to purchase Jamie's book. It is a total game and life changer. And of course, I always want to hear from you. So drop me a note, leave us a review, and thanks as always for being here as a listener on the Flourish or Fold podcast. Until next time, I'm Dr. Taryn Marie. For all of you listening in to Flourish or Fold Stories of Resilience, I want to share with you an online course that we have on our website. We're going to go ahead and drop the website in our show notes, or you can go to www.resilience-leadership.com and check out our offerings. We've got an incredible course for you called Flourish, the 5 Practices of Highly Resilient People. So if you love what you're learning about in this podcast, if you love these conversations on resilience, if you love hearing about how you can more effectively face the inevitable moments of challenge, change, and complexity, or the 3 C's as I call them, in your life, then go ahead and check out our online course, Flourish, the 5 Practices of Highly Resilient People, because what you are going to find is a one-on-one tutorial with me around each of those 5 practices, as well as an introduction and a conclusion. We've got hours of content that is going to allow you to engage in direct coaching and learning with me on the 5 practices. Go ahead and check it out, and I hope you'll join us in our online course, Flourish, the 5 Practices of Highly Resilient People.